Good evening everyone, it's 31st of August 2025, Sunday, 10:35 p.m. here. In this video I'll be talking about Hippus. I went through so many videos on the YouTube and there are nice videos how it is seen, but it's not clearly defined in these videos. So I felt like reading it from the standard book and sharing this video with all of you. First I'll talk about it in my own words and then I'll be reading the two paragraphs from the book Walsh and Hoyt. It's given in the chapter 14, page number 683. So what is Hippus? Hippus is physiologic pupillary unrest. It is strictly this term Hippus, it is for physiologic unrest, pupillary unrest, that is pupillary oscillations which happen and in physiological conditions and not pathological conditions. This is what this book defines, and it's not very nicely explained in so many videos. So that's why it's very important not to educate yourself from the YouTube videos, but actually read the books. Even if I'm telling you, maybe sometimes if I'm just using my own words, maybe sometimes I make mistakes, human mistakes. So always and always refer the standard books, because certain experiments are carried out and they give the reference articles of those experiments and the conclusions drawn from them, and this is how the standard books are formed or compiled. So it's very important to read the standard books, and not a single video, not a single lecture from the teacher is a better substitute than reading the standard books. So it's very important to read the standard books. So you, for neuro-ophthalmology, you can go for this Walsh and Hoyt book, and it's really nice. Like, I read 2-3 chapters from this book and I really recognize the difference between this book and Kansky and Jacobi's and all. Like, you should read the standard books for like glaucoma, separate book, cornea, separate book. It's not possible when you are a postgraduate student, because you have a lot of work. So it's the teacher's job to read all these books and compile all the knowledge and from different standard books. And when you are presenting certain things, when you are given a topic to present in front of everyone, then it's teachers' responsibility to suggest nice books on that topic, standard books, and then make the presentation. It's very important. It makes it very impressive and knowledgeable and informative. So what is Hippus? Hippus is physiologic pupillary unrest, and it is physiological, it's not pathological. So you can say the pupillary oscillations in the pathological conditions, that's the different. But when it is Hippus, it is always physiologic pupillary unrest, and it's different from the oscillations because of the fatigue and pupillary oscillations because of the fatigue, and also when the light, when the age of the pupil is exposed to the beam of the light, especially slit lamp, it induces the oscillations. But these are different from this Hippus. Why it is different from Hippus? Because when there is a pharmacological mydriasis, the Hippus, it is seen in the consensual eye also when the light is shown to the eye. But when the age of the pupil is exposed to a light, or narrow beam of the light in the eye that is dilated, or the drops are put that eye, obviously it's not going to show any oscillations. But the other eye, the consensual oscillations are absent in light light age induced pupillary oscillations, age light pupillary oscillations. The consensual response is absent. But in Hippus, the consensual response is present even when the one eye is dilated and the light is shown to it. So it's very important. And Hippus, it is dependent on the pupil size and the brightness, that is the luminance of the light that the pupil is exposed to. Because if the light is shown to the eye, the pupils, they constrict, and when they constrict, the pupillary oscillations, that is Hippus rate or the frequency of the Hippus, it increases. And in the dark light or dim light, the oscillation frequency, the pupillary physiologic, that is Hippus oscillation or frequency of the Hippus, it decreases in the dim light when the eye is dilated. Okay. When the eyes are exposed to the light for a longer time, first it constricts, then there is First it constricts and then it redilates, and it is accompanied with these hippus, that is increased rate of oscillations of the pupil. So obviously these are dependent on, that's related to the light reflex, but these are not triggered by the accommodation, or these are not triggered by the mood. The oscillations which are triggered by the mood, these are the oscillations which are occurring in the physiological conditions, but these are not called as hippus. These are just oscillations because of the fatigue, because the hippus is not triggered by the mood. This is what this book says. That's why I'm going to read the paragraphs, so I shouldn't miss a single thing about it. So let's start reading it. I can't read the entire chapter because I have limitations and it takes a lot of time to, make videos and edit them, and even it's very stressful for my throat also to continuously read the chapters one after the other. It's very, already I'm having sore throat, it's like allergic, I'm very allergic to so many things. So I would have really liked to make audiobooks, but it's my human limitation. I don't want to strain my laryngeal box and the vocal cords. Okay, Hippus, physiologic pupillary unrest. When observed in ordinary room illumination, the pupils of young healthy person are in almost constant motion. When the eyes are exposed to long-lasting light stimulation, both pupils constrict, then partially redilate and begin to oscillate. In dim light, the pupils become large and the rate of oscillation is slow. However, with increasing light intensity, the mean diameter of the pupils becomes smaller and the rate of oscillation increases, maximally about 2 per second. These movements are synchronous in the two eyes and appear to continue indefinitely. This physiologic pupillary unrest, also called as hippus, is present in all normal persons and is not triggered by accommodation. It is reduced or absent when the afferent or efferent path of the light reflex is impaired or in presence of spastic meiosis. So it is absent in afferent pathway defects of the visual pathway, light reflex pathway, and in spastic meiosis. It is absent. Obviously, if the eye spastic meiosis or even the mydriasis, pharmacological mydriasis, it's going to be absent. Fixed dilated pupil. Some investigators believe that physiologic pupillary unrest modulates the excitability of the cells throughout the visual pathway by constantly changing the exposure of the retina to light, because it's oscillating. So it's controlling the amount of the light reaching the retina, and this is how it modulates the excitability of the cells throughout the light reflex pathway. Visual pathway. However, others emphasize that such a function of pupillary instability cannot be of major importance to the visual process, because patients with fixed pupils have no impairment of the visual function. Fixed pupils means fixed dilated pupil, obviously near vision is going to be defective, but no significant impairment in the visual function as such when such pupillary instability is absent. So its contribution to the visual function is almost nil. It is, they have written, have no impairment of the visual function, so it cannot be of major importance to the visual processes, this pupillary hippus phenomenon. Physiologic pupillary unrest should not be confused with two similar but unrelated phenomena. So differential diagnosis of physiologic pupillary hippus is: first, oscillatory pupillary movements which occur with reduced alertness, because hippus is not affected by what? Accommodation. It is not triggered by accommodation, it is not triggered by the mood, but it is dependent on the luminance, because if the brightness increases, the pupils constrict and the rate of oscillation increases. In dim light, the rate of oscillation decreases with the dilatation of the pupil. So it is dependent on the luminance and brightness of the room. And so the two phenomena, oscillatory pupillary movements that occur with reduced alertness and age light induced pupillary oscillations. That oscillatory movements of the pupil occur with changing states of wakefulness is not surprising. The iris is always under the influence of the labile dynamic equilibrium of the sympathetic and parasympathetic innervation, both of which are active in varying degrees. Specific excitatory and inhibitory reflexes are superimposed on this constantly wandering baseline of activity that influences the extent and shape of the reflex response. The same stimulus may therefore elicit an extensive reflex at one moment and not the next. depending on the state of alertness of the individual. Thus, these fatigue waves increase when a normal person is drowsy or very sleepy and are suppressed by mental activity. As far as age-light induced pupillary oscillations, the second phenomenon that is similar to the pupillary hippus but is not the pupillary hippus. So these are the pupillary oscillations which are age-light induced. The pupil can be made to oscillate vigorously in a dark room by placing the narrow beam of slit lamp across the pupillary margin of the iris. This is clearly the result of the photomotor reflex turning itself off and on. This phenomenon is unrelated to physiological pupillary unrest, that is Hippus, because the induced oscillation cease when the light is presented in Maxwallian view, so that the constricting iris does not cut into beam of light. Furthermore, when the iris of one eye is pharmacologically immobilized, stimulation of this eye no longer induces pupillary oscillations. However, the normal physiologic unrest continues in the consensually reacting untreated eye. Although the term hippus is used to describe physiologic pupillary unrest, it is also used in numerous contradictory ways. Like hippus means physiological pupillary unrest. It is physiologically seen, but it is contradictorily used in various pathological conditions, also to describe the fatigue waves and the pupillary changes which occur in Cheyne-Stokes respiration, and yeah. But this book is saying at the end of the discussion, it is saying that the term hippus should be used synonymously with physiological pupillary unrest because the phenomenon appears to have no clinical significance in most patients, and that's why hippus is a physiological pupillary unrest, because it doesn't appear to have clinical significance in most patients, and that's why. So hippus means physiological pupillary unrest. It's a physiological phenomenon, and pupillary oscillations occurring in different conditions, it's just pathological pupillary oscillations. So when hippus term is used, it is mainly, according to this book, is physiological pupillary unrest, not pathological one. But some books and some people use this term hippus to describe pathological pupillary unrest too, contradictorily. But according to this book, it is purely physiological pupillary unrest because in most patients it doesn't appear to have any clinical significance. So that was all about the pupillary hippus. You can go through the links in the description box where I have shared the videos how the pupillary hippus appears, and there is one video and she has given the causes like pathological. She has used this term hippus for certain pathological conditions, but according to this book it's physiological, and that's why I'm reluctant to share that link because it is contradictory to this book and my video. But already this book has mentioned that many and some books, they use this term hippus to describe pathological conditions, and they say that it is triggered by various pathological conditions, but it is not so according to this book. This book, it emphasizes that it should be used for physiological it should be taken as a physiological phenomenon. And in this video she is saying that it is triggered by certain conditions. It is seen like hippus is triggered by certain conditions, pathological conditions like diabetic neuropathy and cirrhosis. But to be more accurate, according to this book, it's just pupillary oscillations getting triggered in certain pathological conditions, or you can say pathological pupillary oscillations with increased frequency seen in these conditions like liver cirrhosis, diabetic neuropathy and all. So that was all about the hippus. I hope it added to your information, and I'm very glad to share my knowledge here with all of you. Bye. Good night.